If you're a female entrepreneur over the age of 40 and you're not leveraging collaborations in your business, you're potentially making things a lot harder than they need to be. I'm a female visibility strategist and a LinkedIn strategist, and I work with female entrepreneurs over the age of 40. And one of the things that I see is that we try to do all the things all by ourselves, overlooking an approach that could really accelerate your business. And that approach is collaborations, collaborating with others in order to move your business forward. It's something that I keep coming back to time and time again. How can women start to incorporate this as just a go to strategy, a go to approach? I think we're often doing things in a really isolated way. So we're posting on our own, we're creating content on our own, we are hosting events on our own, we're doing all the things, trying to figure it out, right? Sometimes we don't even have a business bestie. We're not part of communities. We're not part of masterminds. So we have, nobody to bounce off, nobody to say, hey, sis, this is what I'm seeing in my corner of the world. This is what's working for me. This isn't what's working. And while, yes, that can work for some people, I just think, why not go a path that allows you to go faster and to get quicker results? Each morning I co-work. So I have two co-working sessions. And off the back of those, I often come away with thoughts, with insights. So this is my pajama power hour, let's call it. And I'm inviting you into it. What I'm taken away from the session this morning, two of the women on the second co-working are both in the leadership space, and they were sharing their insights from the session. And then the other said, you know what? We are both in leadership. So maybe this idea keeps coming up. Maybe we should explore what it would look like to work together. And instantly I was like, this is what I have been banging the drum for. I'll link to a video that I did around collaboration being one of your visibility anchors, and it's often one of the most overlooked. Sometimes we think we're not quite at that point of reaching out to somebody to collaborate. We think, oh, let's wait until I've amassed a certain level of success. Or you think, why would anybody want to collaborate with me? Check out that video that I'm going to link, because I speak in detail around collaborations being a visibility anchor. But here, I just want to speak around that topic, but also springboard with ideas that I'm thinking of more recently. So let me get into the ideas that I've been having. And as I said, this has come off the back of that co-working session, because when I saw that those two women were like, we should do something together, I'm like, this is a topic that I absolutely need to talk about. Right. So the thing that I see time and time again is that collaboration really speeds things up, even in my own business, right? So when I have been invited into perhaps somebody's community to deliver a session on LinkedIn, or to speak at an event, to speak for an organization with a workshop or a masterclass, right? Your progress, your visibility, your access to groups of people, to networks, to organizations accelerates, because those people who have brought you in have done the hard work. They've built the network, they have the trust, they have the audience. And obviously, there has to be an overlap, right? So if it's an audience that's not relevant to you, isn't likely to get you business, isn't likely to grow your email list, then I would consider why, or I would ask you to consider if it's a good fit for you and if it's actually worth your time. But ultimately, collaborations accelerates your progress, right? You can get seen faster. You can develop trust in a much quicker, much speedier way. It can open doors that might take you years to push open yourself. So I would love to know, are you collaborating? Is it something that you utilize as a tool in your tool belt? Let me know, drop a comment below, because I genuinely think collaboration is like one of the most overlooked visibility strategies. It's not the flashiest, it's not the most hype, but I think it is one of the most powerful things that especially a woman over the age of 40 who is building a business in and amongst real life, right? While we have things happening personally, health wise, relationally, there's all the things going on. Collaborations could be one of the strategies that could really help you. What I've noticed is when you collaborate, right, you stop relying on your own audience, you stop relying on the network that you have built. And I think that's a really big shift, because when you're building something on your own and everything depends on your content, it depends on your network, it depends on your reach, it depends on the way the algorithm sees you and responds to you, it depends on your momentum, right? Everything is placed on your shoulders. However, when you collaborate, as I've said, you step instantly into trust. The trust already exists, and that is really important, because trust, I believe, moves faster than content can. So we spend a lot of time creating content, building, our social platforms, our blogs, creating um, authority assets, right? But if somebody has already done that work, right? The host of a podcast, perhaps the presenter of an event, maybe a community leader, or somebody maybe that you go live with, they've already done that work, right? So when they introduce you, there's already that warmth there, there's already that trust there, that acceptance there. Their network is like, oh, okay, Sally has brought Shalina in and we trust Sally. So, like, we're more likely to trust Shalina because of that relationship, because of that connection. So you're not starting completely cold. And that is important. That makes a huge difference. I also think that you get a better result from like smaller niche communities, groups, networks that are engaged, that are active, as opposed to trying to enter into these bigger rooms where nobody's paying attention, nobody cares, nobody's responding. So for me, collaboration is not just about visibility. It's about being visible in the right spaces, visible in a space where people are actually interested in what it is that you have to say. So collaborating with the right people in the context where there's trust that already exists, those are important things to think about. I also think that collaborations are an essential, especially for an expert led business, right? So you're a coach, you're a consultant, um, an author, perhaps. It's not about posting more, it's not about spinning your wheels and doing more. Sometimes you just need more proximity. You need more shared trust. You need to borrow someone else's credibility, and collaboration can do that for you. I also think that collaboration, it just feels lighter, right? And I think that that matters, especially for a woman over the age of 40, because our energy levels aren't what they used to be, right? We're tired, we're doing 101 things. And I know for myself, I'm tired of feeling like visibility means constantly having to produce, perform, post, right? That is draining. And I just don't have the energy for it. And maybe you feel likewise, let me know in the comments. Whereas collaborations, when done right, can bring a different kind of energy. Your conversations are more meaningful. They're around the things that are important to you. You're sharing in rooms where people lean in and want to hear from you. You're in somebody else's space that you're able to bring a fresh perspective, a fresh energy. So even the owner of that space is grateful to have you, right? Because it means one less thing for them to do, but also they're bringing value to their network, they're bringing value to their audience. So as I've said, often we think, why would somebody want to collaborate with me? If you approach them and ask them, they probably would bite your hand off for those reasons that I've mentioned. And don't hear what I'm not saying. Collaboration is not just like huge partnerships, huge brand deals, massive creators. I think people overcomplicate collaborations. So it could look like, as I've done, being a guest in somebody else's community, maybe doing a workshop with somebody, maybe joining a panel and sharing your insights conversationally, um, being a guest on somebody's podcast, going live with somebody. Maybe you co create resources, maybe like a LinkedIn PDF or a LinkedIn live that you do together. Or maybe you just show up in somebody's community and add value with a small group of people naturally. And then you'll see that relationships just start to develop very organically. So it doesn't have to be huge, it just has to be aligned. I think that is one of the biggest things to take away with a collaboration. That there has to be an alignment of values, an alignment of audience, um, also the way in which they conduct themselves, because I'm sure you've heard that phrase of show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. You don't want to collaborate and associate with somebody who operates in a way that is contrary to the way that you do, because their behavior will obviously on their behavior and conduct will reflect on you. So you have to be sensible in terms of who you collaborate with. But collaborations, I think, are a fantastic way to get visibility. And don't focus on the numbers. As I've said, you're not trying to get into those bigger spaces, because honestly, I would prefer to be in front of 200 aligned, engaged people rather than 20,000 random ones who could care less what I'm talking about, right? Because those 200 are far more likely to remember you, to follow you, to engage with you, to buy from you ultimately. And that's what we're here for, right? That's why we're in business. And that is why this kind of visibility, I think, really does matter, especially for expert led businesses. I would also encourage you to think about what happens after the moment. So, after you have collaborated, having a plan for how you're going to utilize those assets, right? How you're going to repurpose, how you're going to promote, how you're going to get more juice out of that particular collaboration. So, thinking perhaps, what's the next step that I can direct somebody to so they become aware of you? They're going to come over to your profile, they're going to come to your website. Do you have resources that they can tap into? Is there something that you can offer as a next step? You want to have that ripple effect that keeps going. So it's not just a one and done, flash in the pan, never to be remembered. We have to intentionally think about, okay, so from this collaboration opportunity or moment, how can I leverage this going forward? And I would even encourage you to think about that ahead of the event so that straight off the back of it, you can capitalize on that momentum. So a podcast episode can become content posts, or maybe it could become clips. A live that you do could be a LinkedIn newsletter, for example, that becomes social proof. So again, it's not just about one moment, it really is about how we can leverage it for our business and to keep the momentum going. So if you're not catching what I'm putting down, like, I don't know, sis, I don't know what I can tell you, because this should be a part of your strategy, especially if you don't want to rely on daily posting, if you don't want to be building everything from your own platform with your own efforts. Partnerships, collaborations are really essential and really key, especially for the Gen X entrepreneur, the Gen X woman. And then as I'm like starting to wrap this video up, like thinking for yourself, as like you know what your preferences are, you know what your strong points are, where you thrive best. So if you love teaching, then maybe you do a guest workshop with somebody. Maybe that's the thing that you focus on. If you are stronger in conversations, a podcast would be great for you, or going live might be a better fit for your strengths, for your personality type. If you like creating resources, maybe you do an audience swap, or you enter into a bundle or some kind of co-created guide. That would make more sense for you. So you don't have to do every kind of collaboration, but I do think that it helps when you're intentional about it, when you think about like what your strengths and weaknesses are. So maybe for the next 90 days, like focus on getting on podcasts if you're strong conversationally. Focus on getting teaching opportunities in communities, in workshops, in masterclasses, in other people's spaces. Maybe doing one collaboration a month is really going to up your visibility, is really going to help to get momentum for your business. You then start to become a go-to person. You start to become somebody that is memorable because you've accessed other networks, other spaces, rather than just relying on what you have currently built with your own efforts. So I would say go for something simple, something clear, something that you can actually follow through on. That would be my advice, because I think consistency in the right rooms is more powerful than trying to be everywhere. So, yes, ladies, that is what I've been thinking about. And I genuinely love to know, like, what you think. Have you been using collaborations as part of your visibility strategy? Is it something that you need to prioritize? Is it something that you need to bake into what you're already doing and be more intentional about it? And if you are going to start, I would love to know where you're going to start. Like, what type of collaboration strategy feels most natural to you? Is it a workshop? Is it a podcast? Is it a live? An audience swap perhaps, or like creating a resource, a co-created resource with somebody. So let me know in the comments. And if you'd like support building strategic visibility in a way that feels more intentional and less exhausting, I'll drop the details below for the LinkedIn Visibility Challenge, which is held inside of my community. So yeah, check that out. That would be something that you could definitely tap into and start to get the benefits from. But I will see you in the next video. I'm excited to do more of these pajama power hours, where I'm literally just sharing thoughts and ideas as they come to mind. All right, looking forward to seeing you in the next one.